But as I think back over the way Jesus approached things, and in every situation, he used pretty much the same formula. He came into a situation. I think maybe in the beginning, he was willing to sit back and listen, but he came into a situation and he immediately began to try to identify the needs that were being expressed. He didn't usually speak until he knew what the need was. I mean, even the example that we've used many times of the lady with the blood disease that just touched his garment, he took the time to understand what her real need was, and that was to understand that she had a right to be respected in her community, and he brought her to that understanding. So he understood the needs, and once he understood the needs, then he began formulating plans to meet those needs. And I wish Congress would do that. I wish that they would understand that their political philosophy is important. It's what got them elected, but it isn't important to go and say, I have all your solutions. This is what I'm going to do for you. That's unfortunately what we tend to base our political campaigns on. But I wish they would say, I just want to understand what you need, and I'm going to use my power and my position to help you meet those needs.
Well, and Dale, I just want to add something, because I think the discussion is great, but I also think that the needs are different. Mm-hmm. I think that part of the problem is that the people in Congress believe that the only need is the need of their constituents, and that's it. There's no other need. And it becomes then, we got to get this across to help our people. But the reality is that what might work in the city of New York might not work in a city in Wyoming. And I think that there's a big lack of social awareness in Congress, in the sense that it's a microcosm. They're understanding what's going on in the Bronx, for example, which is where I'm from, but it's completely different issues in Phoenix, Arizona, completely different. And I think that that's what's polarizing the two sides. And in reality, what we should be looking at is there are different needs, but the underlying thing is that we are all American. This isn't two countries. This isn't two, we're not talking about two different, the North and the South here. We are one country with different needs. And we must understand, try to understand, and respect whatever it is that the needs are in Phoenix, Arizona, whatever it is the needs are in New York City, find common ground and try to work, like Wanda has stated, for the betterment of the country, understanding that it's not going to be the same solutions for everyone. And I think that's part of it. There's a very deficit, a severe deficit of social awareness. I think even more than relationship management in Congress.
I made a lot of my money back in the 90s doing employee surveys and going into organizations and listening and diagnosing what the issues are. And I can tell you with 100% confidence that no matter how much research I do, 80% of the problems, and I'm making that number up because I don't really know if it's a real number, but I don't think it's that far off. But 80% of the problems are from 6 categories of problems. And I suspect that the problems of Phoenix, Arizona, and the problems of New York have common areas as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that a congressman who is emotionally intelligent can represent the needs of his community but also remember that he has a responsibility, or she has a responsibility to the whole country when they go into Congress. And their responsibility is to make the needs of their organization clear and their constituency clear, and then work for common solutions that meet most of the needs. They can do some things specifically for their community, but they also have a responsibility in making national policy.
Absolutely.
And
It's
not
a lack
everyone
of
realizes that.
it's a lack of vision, Dale. I think it's a lack of showing the road, of showing this is where we want to be, instead of bickering about how we're going to get there. There's no one in Congress that has laid out a significant vision. You know, we look at Ronald Reagan, we look at John F. Kennedy, the great leaders that we consider great leaders. They had a vision. Now, it might not have addressed the person that's hungry in New York City in the ghetto, you know, Kennedy's vision, but he had a vision, and it united everyone. And that was the common ground that then made people work and listen together and work towards those other issues. You know, and one of the things that Kennedy is you know, famous for is his famous "ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." And I think that in today's society, if we are socially aware, we realize that we have a generation of, actually maybe 2 or 3 generations of people, that it's all about me. What's in it for me? What can I get out of it? If it's nothing for me, then I don't want to do it. But I don't think that I'm not saying it to blame that generation. I'm saying it to say that we've had a lack of leaders that have been able to show the vision, the common ground vision, and therefore it has caused these generations that don't care about what's going on in Arizona. I only care what's going about in my town, in my house, and that's it. Whatever happens over there, I don't care. And we've moved away from that common goal, that common American spirit, if you want to call it. Reagan oftentimes called it that. We've moved away from that, and it's now me. What about me?
Well, the Constitution guarantees life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Not happiness, but the pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And there's a lot of room in that grand definition for specific definitions in local communities.
I will say something that I guess we are missing the order of how the things should be. You know, you have to define, then explore options, design a plan, and take action. I think that sometimes we just jump to take action without even thinking what's the plan, what are the options, and what is the purpose. And we are just shooting around, like whatever happened, whatever I say today, how I feel, is something that without the thinking and the process of brainstorming. But if we have a clear objective, a clear vision that based in life, freedom, and pursuit of happiness, we have to define what is that. But for the main percentage of people, and then explore options, how we could accomplish this, brainstorm. This is why we have, I don't know how many Congress people over there. It's not just the idea of one. We are a group of people that we could sit and explore options, how we could make this vision that we define really clearly. Then, okay, now with all these options that we brainstorm, let's define a plan and let's take action that we could actually be proactive with the management of that plan, with that project. But it's not just today I wake up and I think that this is what we should do without thinking in the consequences, or even brainstorming and sharing with other people that could input in that, and have a clear path, a clear vision, a clear objective of where we want to be in the next year, 4 years, in the next 8 years, in the next generation. And also plan, do, check, and adjust. We learned that what the things that we have done or we have been doing, where are taking us? This is the future that we want to, or we have to switch, or we have to make changes. And the objective without attachments. I think that people just attach to one idea without even study it in deep to see, I'm just going to be objective, thinking and looking and studying this idea without colors, without me, without hiding agenda. Let's study this. Let's see it from outside with a different perspective and see that maybe could be an option. That maybe could be a good way to explore, to brainstorm, to study in depth and be able to actually think out of the box. But unfortunately, that's not the path where we are going right now. Unfortunately, it's a lack of emotional intelligence, a lack of coaching techniques, a lack of communication skills. And I wish that some way, somehow, we are going to be able to say something that they could listen, probably this recording some way, somehow, and say how we could actually integrate, how we could learn emotional intelligence and how we could practice it consciously every single day in our job, every day for the good of this country, of this nation that is the best one. Obviously, I'm not objective in what I say right now, but it's the best one. That is the one that we live and we choose to live in. That means that, yes, I wish that we will have more people with emotional intelligence in those leadership positions.
So to summarize, it starts with me and self-awareness. And if we were talking to Congress, we would point to each one of the 450 approximately House of Representatives and the 100 senators and the vast unnumbered bureaucracy, and we would say, start with understanding yourself. Understand your motives. Re-explore and commit to your mission and your purpose for being here. And then we would say, all right, now that you have figured out why you're here, let's take a look at your strengths and weaknesses. What do you bring to the table that you can use to make things better? And what do you have to control that can get out of hand? Now you're ready to move into social awareness. I'm going to get out there, I'm going to mingle figuratively or in reality, and I'm going to figure out what the people need. I'm going to figure out how my unique set of strengths and weaknesses might help them meet that need. And then I'm going to use relationship management without giving up my personal self. I'm going to try to bring understanding and peace to the world. And I think that, not peace to the world, but peaceful resolutions to issues while respecting differences. So I'm going back here in history and I'm thinking about the wisdom of our country's founders in the Constitution. They set up 3 different branches of government which were to be separate but equal. You have Congress, whose job it is to know what the people need and make the laws. You have the executive branch, whose job it is to implement the laws. You have the Supreme Court, whose job it is to monitor the laws to make sure they comply with the Constitution. But there is a 4th element that wasn't set up in the Constitution. The press is often referred to in history as the 4th estate, because the press was designed and purposed to follow the actions of the three executive branches or the three branches and to get in and ferret out truth and report, not become the news. And I often think that if the press was doing its job, the other three branches of government or the three branches of government would do their jobs better because the press was to be the people's voice of accountability for what the government was doing. And so the whole system is broken, but hopefully our
Dale,
little words
I think I'm going to make a quick comment because I do believe that you're on something really good here. But I have to say that it also, the biggest one is the people, the citizens. And the reality is that we have a citizenship in this country that doesn't want to be informed. They want to be fed information, and they believe things without any type of checking or seeing if it is. We live in the age of information. We live in an age where you can pick up a phone and do research that it used to take me weeks on the Encyclopedia Britannica when I was a young boy. And yet we have a people that has lost all interest in educating themselves about the things of government, about the issues that are going on. And I think that needs to be brought up because we oftentimes blame the press, but the reality is the information is there. It's there for anyone who wants to see it. And I think I think this country, we have to go back to how my father felt about this country. My father was born in El Salvador. And I oftentimes use this when I'm talking to people because people don't understand that for my father, this was the best country in the world. He could have never supported a family of 5 in his country and never done the things he did in his country that he did here. And so it changes everything. And he, in his broken English, was fierce about this country, was fierce about protecting what it stands for, that pursuit of happiness and all of that. And I think that in our citizenship, we've lost that. We don't have that fiery thing. We don't have nothing to compare it to. We have generations that have been, given everything, and there's nothing to compare it to. So they're not interested in the issues that are going on. And might as well, watch a TV series than get informed about the issues of the current time.
Sam, you and I have a restaurant that we enjoy going to, Positano's. Wanda, will you come up and bring Carlitos and have lunch or dinner with Sam and me at Positano's Italian restaurant sometime?
It's a great place.
In Apopka. It is hands down the most consistent food of any restaurant that I ever eat in. I mean, it's just, everything is pretty much the same every single time. But a lot of the servers at Positano's are from Venezuela. And if you want to get a little refresher course in how valuable our existence in this country is, talk to Genesis, the beautiful waitress from Venezuela who is determined to become a citizen. She's proud. She's going to take her test in the next week or so. And the main reason she wants to do that is she wants to make it possible for her family to be here. So there is still an appreciation for the country, but unfortunately it is most strongly felt in people who are coming from other countries. We're still the place that people want to come to, in spite of all of our imperfections. There aren't very many Americans that defect to Russia or even Great Britain or even Canada anymore, for that example. But people want to come here, in spite of our imperfections, and that's a legacy worth preserving, I think. Sam, some powerful contributions on your part. I think we used you to prove that what you're accomplishing at the Seminole County Jail could be accomplished on a national level, but it would be difficult. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. Anything worth doing is worth doing, even if it's difficult. So Wanda, any closing comments?
Well, I think that start with self-awareness. Let's start with us, each individual. I think that if you change your word, you could change the world. That means that let's look for peace and harmony at individual level, then in our family, and then we continue going. And if you are a leader, that you choose a responsibility in an organization, that become your responsibility. That means that be honor that responsibility, and also be in alignment with emotional intelligence and with the purpose of the organization that you represent. And if it start with you, look for peace. And if it start with any organization, look for peace. Because if each person in this wonderful world work in their own peace, we are going to achieve collective peace. And I think that this is the main thing, being harmony.
Yeah. You know, I go back a little bit farther than you and Sam do. My life has spanned a lot more decades than you two have. And so I can go back in memory to the early 60s, which you guys cannot do, because you don't even have good memories of the early 70s. You're too young. But I have good memories of many things in the early 60s, and we can close with this. There was a program called Your Right to Say It, and it began every week with the following statement: I do not agree with a word you say, but I will defend to the end your right to say it. And I think that's one of the things that's needed today. I don't agree with a lot of things I hear, but it's very important that I remember to defend that people have a right to say it, even when I think they're being stupid. Stupidity is a right, I guess.
It's part of who we are. We are free and we respect each other, but we have also the right to be respected.